Hello, everyone. This is Sabrina Paganoni. I'm joining from the HEALEY Center. We're giving everyone a few seconds to join from the audience. And I think we can get started. So if we can move to the next slide. This is our August 17th platform trial update. And tonight I'm joined by Dr. Cudkowicz, the PI of the platform trial, our patient navigator team, Alison and Catherine. We always love meeting with you on a weekly basis, and we're very excited when we have a guest speaker. So if we can go to the next slide, it's truly my honor and pleasure to introduce Gwen Petersen, who's really a great, has been a great advocate and really a person who has helped us design the trial, a person we go to when we have questions and when we want to learn about how to best interact with the patient community. As you know, we have an active patient advisory committee. And Gwen, thank you so much for being part of that and really for helping us. You really started from the very beginning of the trial. You have been part of that and you have continued to contribute. So I'll turn it over to you to tell us more about your experience as a advisor to our trial and in general in terms of your advocacy efforts. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Well, first, thank you, Merit and Sabrina. You mentioned platform trial advisory board. Also, HEALEY Center has an EAP advisory board. You know, thanks for giving patients like me the opportunity to consult on trial design and logistics and so much more. So thank you. Usually that's my dog barking in the background, so we'll see. Fingers crossed. All right, so first I'd love to kick things off by talking about a fairly recent, fairly new community resource, and it's called ALS Office Hours. So what is ALS Office Hours? It's a team of 6 people, including myself, all with lived ALS experience, who answer the ALS community's questions on a weekly basis every Friday via Zoom. So those 6 people include myself. I was diagnosed with ALS in 2018. But the group also includes Allison Boulat, who is the surviving spouse of someone we lost to ALS. Also includes Judy Carey, research nurse, of course, at HEALEY. Lane Olive, who is my friend and also living with ALS, also research. Neil's research ambassador includes Kevin Robinson, who is living with ALS. He's also a research ambassador. And lastly, the team is rounded out with David Taylor, who is VP of Research at ALS Society of Canada. So again, between the 6 of us, every Friday on Zoom, from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern, we field the community's questions. And I'll touch on what some sort of frequently asked questions we get. I'll touch on those in just a minute. So just a heads up right now, in the summer months, we are actually taking emailed questions only. So if you need to reach the ALS Office Hours team, right now you can contact us at contact at officehours.als.com. We're happy to put the email address in chat. We plan to resume meeting every Friday, starting Friday, September 1st, again at 1:00 p.m. I'll also include the ALS office hours website in the chat in case you missed any of that information, want to share with others, etc. So next slide, please, if you will. I'm sorry. Yep, perfect. All right, so I put together a list of frequently asked questions that have come our way on Fridays. So one big question from the community is, I want to be more involved in ALS research. Where and how do I get started? So I put together a few resources here. One is signing up for Healey Center research updates. You do not need to be a patient of Healey to receive their updates, nor do you need to be a patient to participate in some of the observational research that Healey offers. So again, great mailing list. You can also join ALS TDI's research collaborative. It's called ARC. I'm sure as the community knows, TDI is laser focused on the research. ARC is sort of a natural history study that collects our data over time. Next, I fully believe and promote the NEALS Research Ambassador Program. So selections for this year's Curly, that's Clinical Research Learning Institute. So selections have already been made, but in the future, you can apply for one of the virtual Curlies. For more info, neals.org is the best place. I'll kind of skip through here and go to the next section. Another frequently asked comment, what vitamins and supplements are you taking? And what does your regimen look like? Without any hesitation, I tend to point people living with ALS straight to Dr. Bedlack. What I like about Dr. Bedlack is that he uses scientific rigor to evaluate efficacy of some of these supplements, and some of them even go through clinical trials. For example, the Theracumin trial that he ran. So I can go off on a tangent, but here's a link to Dr. Badlack's most recent ALS Untangled webinar. It's a really good one. We also get lots of questions on ALS reversals. What's the criteria Rick uses for reversals? How many are there? This link is to the most recent webinar on reversals. Lastly here, a lot of questions about genetic testing. Where do we go? How do we get free genetic testing? Here is a link to Prevention Genetics and Ionis. They're running a free genetic testing program for people with ALS. So I will pause there, Sabrina. I tried to go through that as quickly as possible. I'll pause there. I know there's some questions in chat.
That's great. Yeah. So maybe let me just quickly run to the end of the slide deck just to provide a weekly platform trial updates, and then we'll return to you. And Gwen, thank you so much. I mean, I think that really what we are seeing is really tremendous growth in terms of opportunities for people living with ALS to be involved with different initiatives. Now, obviously on this webinar, we talk about the platform trial as a research opportunity, but there's lots of opportunities for advocacy, involvement, and to support each other, as you just explained so beautifully. So again, one such options is, kind of participation in research. And I do want to ask you what it is to participate in research from your point of view. But before I get to that, I just, want to share again that we are actively enrolling for the platform trial. That's one of the many research projects that are available for ALS at the moment. Right now, we're very excited to be enrolling for 2 regimens for testing 2 drugs, regimen F and regimen G of the platform trial. Next slide. And as discussed in previous webinars, the community really loves to see the progress, and we're making great progress in terms of enrollment. Right now, we have 162 people that have already received drug in either F or G, and many more are in the screening phases of the process. So that's wonderful. So thank you so much to all of you who are participating or supporting someone who participates. So we're really making great progress with enrollment. I think it's because really of the excitement around these drugs. At the same time, we also have lots of spots available. So please contact your study team if you're interested in participating. Next slide. At this point, we are active at 59 sites. We're adding the last few sites. And so again, we are definitely present nationwide. So please let us know if you have any questions about which centers are close to you. And all the links that are available in these slides are basically for you to go directly to the site name and contact information. Next slide. So again, many sites are recruiting 59, and you can find the contact information on our website, as you can see on the slide. Next. And as always, today we are here also with our patient navigation team. They're also available to talk to you outside of this webinar. So please don't hesitate to reach out to them. And thank you, Catherine, for putting the link to sign up for our newsletter in the chat. You can find that. We're going to have next week. Actually, we're going to have a great guest, Dr. Bowser, coming to join us to talk about the importance of biomarkers. We're really testing drugs as part of this trial, but we're also developing new biomarkers and learning more about the disease. So that's really fantastic to have him join us next week. And so with that, I think we can take down the slides. And obviously, because you're here, Gwen, I would love to hear more from you today and really ask you a few questions. So the first questions I have is, what does it mean to you to participate in research? I know you've participated in many studies, so tell us more about it. What's the greatest benefit that you see personally from research participation?
Yeah, so I've benefited immensely from my participation in both observational research, which is which means basically monitoring me over time. It doesn't, observational is not with an investigational therapy, but observational research is so important because we're getting closer to unlocking some of the mysteries about underlying biology of this disease and so much more, biomarkers, etc. So in my opinion, observational research is another way that we're going to come closer to answers. So in addition to observational, I was really lucky to participate in a clinical trial with an experimental therapy for ALS. Not everyone is lucky to be able to really feel the hope that I felt from being a trial participant. So to answer the long of the short of it, to answer your question, I participate in research for two main reasons. One is hope, and two is being a part of something bigger, contributing to science, and hopefully one day, you know, a future 32-year-old woman who's newly married and trying to start a family will have more options, and there will be more, you know, disease modifying treatments at some point in the future if more people like me would you know, be willing to participate.
Thank you for that. I mean, that was really incredible and really inspiring. And I do want to mention, since you mentioned, you know, you're a young woman, somebody in the chat actually commented that she and I have to say, I too love her ALS story. I don't know if you want to tell
Me
us what it is,
too.
but I absolutely love it. So thank you
It's
to all of you.
it's a sisterhood, and we created, I know you know the story, Sabrina, but you know, we created it because we have a different story to tell, and we are, you know, uniquely in our 20s and 30s, living with the disease, navigating careers and relationships, and kind of thrown into ALS at a really pivotal, you know, important time in figuring out who we are as people, as women. So yeah, that group has helped me tremendously.
And you're making such an impact. Thank you for that. So maybe I'll alternate one question for you, Gwen, and one question for Dr. Cudkowicz, since we're also getting sort of some technical questions about the trial itself. I wanted to ask you, Dr. Cudkowicz, you know, again, the trial generates a lot of hope, and people obviously can't wait to know results. So can you give us an update on Regimen E? Have the participants completed the trial, or where do we stand?
Oh, thank you. So Regimen E is our fifth drug that's with a company called Selos. The drug is called Trehalose. And we're very close. The last person's last visit is happening very soon. Should be in August, and by the end of August. It does take some time from when the last person finishes, because we do have a 4-week follow-up for safety, and during that time we're doing the biomarker work like neurofilament, sending all the samples for that. We're cleaning and locking the database, and the statisticians are getting ready to analyze it. So I don't have the exact timeline when we're going to have the results, but it typically can take 8 to 12 weeks from when you actually have the last visit to get the results.
Yeah, and now I'll turn over to you, Gwen. So you kind of answered this already, but I think it's an important question, so I want to sort of ask you again. What can the community do to support each other when it comes to research, or also like how can people get involved?
No question is a dumb question. You know, it's sometimes, especially early in my diagnosis, it was really intimidating to ask doctors questions and follow-up questions. And just know the more questions you ask, you know, the more fulfilling, I think. Yeah, just continue to ask questions. I would say you know your body, you know what's going on. Just continue to ask, and if you're interested in research, there are so many organizations out there, which you know, it's a vast landscape. It might seem overwhelming, but I would pick like 2 or 3 mailing lists to follow. I included Healy Center's mailing list, like how to email to receive updates. The newsletter is great. ALS TDI's monthly newsletter is great. You can pick 2 or 3 resources and start reading and following, and from there bring the information back to your doctors and care team, and ask whatever questions you want.
Great. Dr. Cudkowicz, there's a question about the platform trial, the design elements of the platform trial. So what elements can be incorporated into other trials, or I guess what are our learnings for the field?
That's a great question. You know, the main goal of the platform trial is to find the best treatments as fast as we can. As we learn about which drugs work, we're also adding in biomarkers, different types of ways to see if we can pick out people that might respond better, or ways to tell if a drug works in a shorter time. Those learnings can be brought to any trial. So for example, in regimen D, the 4th one, we saw you know, positive results very early on one of our digital apps by Oral Analytics, a way to measure people's speech in the home. So that's actually really important because that's such an important symptom, but it also means that that type of approach can be used in other trials outside the platform. We also learned that we could do breathing measurements in the home, making it easier for people to participate, and that is, you know, very correlated to what we were doing in the clinic. So that can also be used for other trials. Those are just some examples.
Great. Question for Gwen. So I know that we often hear from people saying, you know, we want to participate in research to contribute to science, exactly for the same reasons that you mentioned. But then there's also, you know, a little bit of hesitation in terms of, you know, the effort, the emotion, you know, participation in a trial is still very involved. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, I don't want to undermine how deeply personal it is for each person. But all of these decisions, what drugs to take or not take, whether or not to enroll in a clinical trial, all deeply personal. I would say for anyone who has questions, or who is considering, or maybe you're not considering, talk to your doctor, talk to your care team. Also, even if you make one friend in this community, whether it can be me, it can be Allison Bulat, it can be the amazing Nadia, like, make one friend in this community, and I guarantee they are going to be a wealth of information, a good support. This community of people is everything. So if you're not necessarily comfortable talking to your doctors, or you don't know what questions to ask, that's totally understandable. But make a friend in the community.
Thank you. And Dr. Cudkowicz, great question that just came in about how are drugs chosen? Do drug companies come to the HEALEY Center, or do the HEALEY Center go out and find new drugs? And actually, a question is also, what's HEALEY? Is that an acronym? So I know that many new people join the field, so we haven't spoken about this story, the history of the center yet. So maybe you can tell us about it.
I'll say that HEALEY is named after a patient I cared for, Sean Healy, who him and his friends gave a philanthropic gift to Mass General to start our center and to start the platform trial. And so when I was talking to him about what to call the platform trial, he came up with what actually has stuck very well, the HEALEY platform trial. So we just call it the HEALEY. It's named after Sean Healy. How do we pick? So we do both. If we know of a company that has an interesting drug, we approach them about working with us in the platform trial, or doing a standalone if they prefer, but offer our help to them in the design. So that's one way. And people also come to us. We often spend a couple times talking to them, explaining the platform trial. We've published the design and the statistics as a free download, and analysts will direct them there, and then they can apply. And we have a committee led by Tim Miller at WashU. It's made of academics, scientists, and ALS physicians, and people touched by ALS who review based on some criteria for whether the therapy hits an important target and is ready for phase 2-3 testing.
Thank you. And I'll leave the final word to Gwen, but as I do that, I also want to make a comment that somebody texted us that they're new and they just happened to discover our weekly seminars today, weekly webinars. So Catherine just posted the link, and that's also a good topic, because we're all discussing, how do we really make all the information available to the community, to new people. So when I would ask you to give us your final comments, but also if you could, tell new people, how to get involved, how to find information. I think that's really an important point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't deserve the last word, but happy to help with resources. So as I mentioned, there is a litany of information out there, so many different organizations. It can feel slightly overwhelming at times. If you're interested in research, whether you're a patient of HEALEY or not, follow along with what's happening at HEALEY. You can sign up for their newsletter. There's plenty of observational research you can do from your home to contribute. Again, last word would be, I want to highlight research is deeply, it's different for everyone, whether or not we want to participate. But I can't stress enough the immense sense of hope I felt from both being in a clinical trial and a lot of the observational research studies that I've done. I mean, we've got to move the needle, and I'd like to think that even if it's in a small way, I'm helping to move the needle. So thank you.
You are. Thank you so much, Gwen. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll continue to take questions next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you.